Some temptations are so strong that you can't say no. Tonight, Aurora standing in my living room with her eyes on mine was that temptation. The air was tense in a way that makes you feel like you can't get away from it. Aurora, my wife's best friend, had been staying with us for a few days, but tonight was different. It was beautiful how her long, dark hair fell over her shoulders and how her eyes looked like they knew something, one she wasn't afraid to give away. Even though her smile was soft and funny, the way she moved was anything but innocent. With every shape and look, she tried to pull you in as she stood there, her eyes heavy. I knew we had crossed a line we couldn't go back from, with just a touch something so small that it shouldn't have meant anything. Things quickly turned into something I had not seen coming. It felt like the room was smaller. It was impossible to ignore the strain between us before I knew it. Aurora and I were mixed up, caught in the heat of something neither of us could stop. She put her soft lips on mine and put her hand right into my pants, pulling it out. My tool, a door, creaked open just as she was about to put it in her mouth, stopping both of us. As you might have guessed, we were caught when my wife Lana walked in time stopped. I was expecting rage, a fight or something, but she didn't say a word. I mean, she did the unthinkable. The next thing I knew, she had joined us as she walked toward us. Her eyes were dark, with something I couldn't quite read in that moment. I understood that things had gone completely out of hand. A little flirting and a harmless desire had turned into something else. Something dangerous, something that would change everything for good. That wasn't the end, though. Lana wasn't the only one who came in on us. Her friends Lillian, Kate, Ashley, and Diane were also there. What then took place? You won't believe it until you see it for yourself. It was really rough. Before we go, though, make sure you follow the channel to see more videos like this one. First, let me tell you about the first time Aqua and I met. There didn't seem to be anything unusual about the sunny Saturday afternoon. Not at first. My wife had been telling me about her friend for weeks and couldn't wait for me to meet her, being friends with her. I didn't expect much, right? Aurora then came in with blonde hair that sparkled in the sun and fell naturally down her back. She was beautiful. Her smile made it look like she knew something that no one else did. Her eyes, it was bright and fun, but it stayed on me for 1 second too long. It wasn't very clear, it was just vague enough to make me wonder if I was imagining things. Aurora was everything I didn't think she would be. She was sure of herself and charming, and she could walk into any room and take it over right away. The way my wife introduced us, putting her hand on mine, made me pause, but Aurora's eyes made me look back. It seemed like she was reading me and trying to figure out who I was. That little spark of interest only lasted a second. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Why wouldn't I? She was the best friend of my wife, but that spark wouldn't go away. No matter how hard I tried to ignore it, I couldn't get Aurora's smile out of my mind that day. A quiet note to remind me that there might have been more to this than I wanted to accept. Aurora came over to our house for the first time not long after we met. It was going to be a simple chill night out, a night with friends, a few drinks, and some laughs. She came over for dinner because my wife was excited to see her two favorite people again. I think that's what I thought it would be, just another night. But something changed. As soon as Aurora walked through the door, she was dressed in this casual outfit. It wasn't anything special, but it didn't matter. The room felt like it was full of her. And I felt that same spark every time our eyes met. My wife was very happy, at ease in every way. The normal things are being talked about. But the night felt different to me. We looked at each other across the room more than once. As the night went on, it was short and there was nothing that stood out. There was strain between us, though, and it was awful. Those looks meant something that wasn't said out loud. It was like we both knew what was going on, but were afraid to say it. It looked like my wife didn't notice she was enjoying the talk, and the comfort of having her best friend over there was something more going on between Aurora and me with every look we shared. Though little things like how she laughed at my jokes and how she touched me as we walked by each other in the kitchen, it was all there, boiling just below the surface. I knew something had changed by the time Aurora left that night. I thought about her all the time. I tried to forget about it by telling myself it was just a fun draw, and nothing more, but I knew in my heart that it was the start of something greater. It took place on a dull afternoon. My wife was at work when Aurora showed up out of the blue. She said she was nearby and wanted to stop by for a quick chat. At first, it looked like nothing wrong. We sat in the kitchen together and talked about nothing in particular. That one time, however, something changed as the talk went on. It went from being small talk to something more serious, life, love, and the little things we didn't want other people to know were on the table. It felt like the space between us was getting smaller, with each word we spoke making the mood different and more personal. I don't remember how it happened, but all of a sudden we weren't just talking. Aurora was standing next to me, and her eyes were fixed on mine. We were tense with each other, and it was clear. Then she leaned in and kissed me, without warning. It was quick out of the blue, and exciting. Everything else seemed to fall away at that moment. It's my wife, the guilt, and the results. There didn't seem to be any of it. Aurora and the pole were the only things that stood between us. Just as soon as it started, though, I pulled back as the truth hit me as a wave of guilt swept through me. I took a step back to try to get away from it, but the harm was already done, even though it was only a kiss. It started a fire that couldn't be put out. The line between us had been crossed and there was no going back. We didn't talk about it or feel bad about what had happened. We both knew that things had changed in that kitchen where it was quiet. We set off on a dangerous path that we couldn't return to. That kiss stayed with me no matter how hard I tried to push it away. That kept reminding me that our attraction was stronger than either of us had thought. I felt very guilty after that kiss. It was like having a shadow following me around. Something that kept reminding me of what I did. I told myself it was just a mistake in a weak moment, but the thought of Aurora's lips on mine wouldn't go away, no matter how hard I tried to hide it. I told myself I could act like it didn't happen, that I could forget about it and move on. Aurora also didn't say anything about it. It seemed like nothing had changed between us the next time we saw each other, but we both knew it wasn't true. There was more strain between us than ever, and we both knew what the other was thinking, but not saying it. My wife had no idea what was going on and was laughing and smiling with Aurora, as if nothing was wrong. It drove me crazy being aware of what had happened while acting like it hadn't. What did it matter that it was just one kiss? I told myself over and over again that it didn't. But that lie fell apart a little more each time I saw Aurora, the way her eyes would stay on mine, and the way her hand would lightly touch mine as we walked by. We both looked like we were ready for the next step or something else to happen. I knew deep down I could feel the pull getting stronger between us, no matter how hard we tried to stay away. It was always tempting to give in my guilt. But I never did. There was no doubt that desire would get too strong at some point. The next step or mistake was about to happen. We were on shaky ground, and I knew in my heart that one kiss wasn't the end of it. The first close call happened at dinner, which should have been a normal, pleasant evening for the three of us. Aurora came over once more this time for a simple meal as usual. My wife was in a good mood and laughing and talking as if nothing had changed, but I felt like the air was charged with something darker, and Aurora and I were both afraid to say what it was. We were all sitting around the table, and my wife was making jokes while she poured us drinks. I tried to focus on her to act normally, but Aurora was always there. Then it took place. Aura's leg touched mine under the table, just a touch that didn't last long, but I thought a lightning bolt went right through me. As soon as I tightened up, I pulled my leg back, but the harm was already done. That small, what seemed like an innocent touch, made my heart beat fast. Aurora looked cool when I looked at her, like nothing had happened. They were completely calm. We were connected in silence, and her eyes didn't show it. It looked like she was having a normal evening as she laughed with my wife. But the way her leg stayed and the way it carefully touched mine told me everything I needed to know. It wasn't a mistake at the same time. My wife had no idea what was going on and was talking as if nothing was wrong. I felt like I was walking on a thin line between danger and desire, and I knew that even the smallest mistake could bring everything crashing down. I couldn't handle the weight of that quick touch. Under the table, that thought would not leave my mind the rest of the night. I felt like we were playing with fire. I couldn't stop picturing that moment in my head after Aurora left. That night, things were getting worse between us, and I knew we were getting dangerously close to a line we couldn't cross back. The guilt and the desire were coming together in a way that made it feel impossible to say no. The second close call happened not long after the dinner event at a different Sea Casual get-together. It was one of those chill nights when friends drop by and everyone is having a good time. My wife was in charge and kept the talk light while I did everything I could to avoid thinking about Aurora. But the strain between us was always there, and it got worse with every look and touch that didn't mean to be there. At some point in the evening, I was in the hallway by myself, getting a drink from the kitchen. Aurora was right behind me. She was there for me before. She even spoke. It was too quiet for a moment, before she moved in an instant. She pushed me up against the wall and kissed me hard. This time there was no hesitation in the kiss. It was brave and important, and it had everything we had been holding back. I forgot where we were for a second. I forgot about anything else as I kissed her back. Real life hit me again just as quickly. Though we were still at my house, my wife was nearby, only a few rooms away. My heart was racing in my chest, and fear filled me. Then we heard its steps. My wife came down the hall, and to us, Aurora, and I broke up quickly, and we just barely got our bearings in time. My hand was shaking as I tried to stand up straight, because my heart was racing. When my wife walked in, she was smiling and had no idea what almost happened. It's likely that she asked me about the drinks, but I couldn't hear her, because my blood was pumping so fast it was still beating fast, because we were so close to being caught. The longer, any way to hide the fact that things had changed. I began a process that could not be undone, and the results were rapidly approaching in the evening of that day. The moment I had been fearing finally came. My wife came in and found me alone in the kitchen. As soon as she walked in, I could feel the anxiety rising. I was ready for the fight that was going to happen because I knew this was going to happen, but no amount of planning could ease the stress that built up in my chest. When she finally spoke, she didn't avoid it. There was no introduction or pause. She got right to the point, and I was surprised that she wasn't mad at Aurora. It was me, she spoke in a calm but shaking voice. You let it get this far, you let things get out of hand, and now look where we are. What she said hurt more than I thought it would. She wasn't yelling, there wasn't any yelling or throwing, but the sadness in her voice was stronger than the anger she had been keeping, all of her anger, and pain inside, but now it was all coming out. She didn't hold back. She told it all, how I let the desire grow, how I had let her Aurora get too close and cross lines that we both knew we could never get back. I tried to explain. I didn't mean to. I tried to tell her not long ago, but the words didn't work before they even left my mouth. There was no reason why this should have been okay. It was clear in her eyes she thought I would do better, but I let her down. I really let her down when she talked. I could feel the weight of what I had done, like a load I would always have to carry. We both understood that things would not be the same again. This couldn't be fixed, couldn't take back what was done. We could not fix the broken life we had built together. No matter how much we talked after that argument, it seemed like the choice had to be made. There was nothing that could be saved. Both my wife and I knew that what had happened would end our marriage, our faith, which had been the basis of everything, was broken, beyond repair. It was no longer just about Aurora. The story was about how things had gone completely crazy, how we both let things get away from us too quickly and too far. We didn't need to say it out loud. The only choice was to get a divorce. It wasn't a fit of anger or a hasty choice made at the last minute. It was a cold and painful truth that we both felt. At the same time, we couldn't go back. Now that we had crossed so many lines and broken so many unset rules, the love we had and the life we had built together was broken beyond repair. It wasn't just Aurora's deception that broke us up. We had slowly lost everything we had worked for. Those little times we could have gone back, but didn't. The lies. We both told ourselves to keep going even when we knew bad things were going to happen when we finally got together to talk about it. No one said a word, no one was accused or put the blame on someone else. We both knew what we did wrong by letting things go wrong. People didn't decide to get a divorce because they were mad. They did it because they knew it was the only way to move forward. It felt good to let go even though it hurt. She looked sad, but also like she understood. I knew it was the right thing to do, even though it hurt a lot. Something happened that should never have happened because of both of us now. We had to deal with the pain. This was the end of our story together as husband and wife. It hurt, but it was the only way for us to get where we needed to go. We filed for divorce the next day after making our choice. It seemed strange, like I was seeing my whole life fall apart. Slowly, documents were signed and people talked with lawyers. Just like that, the life I used to have was going away. My wife's best friend and I had started dating, which I thought would be safe, but it turned into something that destroyed everything we had. This was the end of Aurora. She was gone just as fast as she came into my life. It hurt me more than just not having her around. The thought of what else was gone hit them. The trusting relationship and shared goals that my wife and I had built in our life together. Everything was broken, like a flimsy glass that was thrown off a cliff and could never be put back together. Things didn't just change. That one night, there were many options, and each one brought us closer to the end that was going to happen anyway. There were times when I could have backed off but didn't, because I made little choices that seemed harmless at the time. Every touch, look, and lie, I told myself everything brought me to this point, the end of us. As I looked at the divorce papers, I could feel how heavy it all was. We were no longer together. Now I had to deal with the results of my decisions, the rush, the pull, and everything else that used to be exciting. They made me lose everything now that I was on the other side. All that was left was the empty space where what I had destroyed had been. I messed up everything in the end. No one else was to blame. We got here because of the choices I made, which meant I had to live with the fact that the life I had loved before was gone and that I was the one who let it go. If you like the movie and want to see more stories like this one about cheating, please subscribe to the channel. Thanks.